Hi, Mark Savage with FineScale Modeler. We're here in beautiful Louisville for WonderFest, their 30th anniversary year. This is a wonderful, wonderful thing. We love to come to it every year. There's all sorts of sci-fi models here. There's all sorts of creatures. There's horror movie people. You name it, it's here. There's a huge vendor room, and we're going to show you all the cool things that we can show you at WonderFest, and we'll talk to some of the modelers too. If you've been hoping someone would create an active, exciting, and friendly sci-fi and fantasy modeling show, well, WonderFest did 30 years ago. This was the show's 30th annual in Louisville, Kentucky, the first weekend in June, and it drew a record crowd and a record 823 models for the contest portion of the show. The tables were packed with sci-fi, horror movie, and fantasy models, and FineScale Modeler did its best to photograph a wide swath of the models. Watch for a gallery in the November issue. The artistry and creativity at this year's show was outstanding, as each year the quality seems to move to a higher level. What makes the show tick is the fun and friendships that seem to be shared from the contest room to two giant vendor rooms to the many modeling seminars. And then there's the Iron Modeler contest each year that encourages modeling teams to quickly build a fantasy model and tell a story of what it represents. Always a good time, and this year FineScale had two judges on the panel rating these entertaining builds. Naturally, WonderFest stars are the models, and this year we asked a few of their builders to tell us about their creations. First, there was Don Hoff's monstrous yet magnificent Millennium Falcon that took 3 years to build and paint.
Well, it started out as the D'Agostini kit, and then I started looking at certain components and replaced the cockpit, the upper and lower gun tubs, did a lot of work in the engine compartment, had to do some scratch building on it, and used a lot of photographs and watched a lot of Star Wars to paint it and weather it. It took 3 years to build it because it's a subscription. Sure. So you had 25 subscriptions coming. After I got the first 12, I started building on it. And weathering, painting, and all. It took a year to paint it correctly and about 4 months to weather it. Got fiber optics in the cockpit and the gun tubs, and the ramp does go up and down.
Next, we chatted with Steve Hilby of Washington State, who always brings a bevy of unusual builds.
I've always kind of loved the 1930s and the wonderful pulp aesthetic of the popular science fiction cheap magazines of the time. So I try to reproduce that when I'm building something. Well, yeah, you gotta have humor, or else it's no fun to look at, right? Well, a guy on an online forum had built himself a neat-looking little airliner out of a GB. So I contacted him and asked him if he'd mind if I did it and put my spin on it. He said, sure, go right ahead. So this is what happens when the Granville brothers go completely insane and decide to enter the airliner business. This is the GBA1. It's powered by the Wright hextuple compound aircraft engine, 6 Wright radials around a common gearbox. The propellers counter-rotate. They were a lot quieter until I accidentally got my finger in the way once, and then they developed that kunkety-kunkety noise you can hear in the video. From my youth, I remember, well, I'm not that old, but I remember the popular mechanics and science fiction covers of giant wheeled vehicles rolling across strange terrain. So when I picked up an old Revell Terra Cruiser kit, which has these charming huge wheels, I decided to do something like that. So this is Christmas on the Moon. The Christmas was added as a way of providing a little human interest to it. Otherwise, it'd just be a boring old cruise ship on the moon. We couldn't have that. So I cut the hole in the side of the Glencoe blimp so you could see the interior, and then I built an interior out of sheet styrene and some resin cast furniture and a bunch of N-scale model railroad figures.
Finally, here's Dan Garden of Charlotte, North Carolina, with his extraordinary car creation.
Yeah, like you said, my name is Dan Gardner. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. This is actually my first car model I've ever done. I am a sci-fi modeler. I actually saw this kit last year at WonderFest, picked it up. It's kind of rare. It is the automobile from 2004 League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, starring Sean Connery. Now, it wasn't exactly a great movie. It actually inspired Sean Connery to quit acting, but the car from this movie was iconic and really beautiful. It is a Victorian-era six-wheel car, approximately 25 feet long. I believe it was built on the chassis of a semi-truck, if I'm not mistaken. Interior was sparsely lacking details, so I added a wooden floor, added LEDs to the headlights. That's really about all I have to say. It was sprayed with Tamiya paints. If you're looking for more in-progress pics, you can check me out on Instagram at sci-fi models and stuff.
We always get a kick out of taking pics of many of the great models we see at WonderFest, and this year you'll be able to see even more than usual. In addition to the November issue gallery, we'll have a special fall issue, Great Scale Modeling, full of photos from WonderFest, IPMS Nationals, and more. It hits newsstands in mid-November. That's it for this go-around at WonderFest. We hope to see you at next year's 31st annual show, the weekend after Memorial Day. So until then, happy modeling.